I would like to introduce you to Esmeralda Rodriguez Arias, Trade Advisor at the World Trade Centre Winnipeg. Originally from Bogota, Colombia, Esmeralda moved to Winnipeg in 2019 and then joined the WTC Winnipeg as a trade advisor. Her role is to help Manitoba businesses reach their corporate goals through obtaining strategic data, locating business opportunities, and connecting businesses with potential Canadian and international partners, as well as provide advisory services on issues such as export planning, market entry strategies, and financing options. She finished her international business postgraduate program at the Manitoba Institute of Trades and Technology and received her international certification as a trade professional. Before joining the WTC Winnipeg, Esmeralda worked for the United States Embassy in Colombia for 10 years and was responsible for the transition of immigrant visa cases from Cuba and Venezuela to Guyana. Welcome, Esmeralda, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Paul, for this warm introduction, and hello, everyone. It's very exciting to be here with you today. I would like to start my presentation saying that being an exporter is not an easy decision, but being prepared could help you to navigate through all the challenges that you are going to face. So today we're going to talk about what are the things that are important when you are developing an export plan and why it is so important to have one. So let's start. So those are the topics that we are going to talk about today. So what is an export plan, why it is important to have an export plan, why it is important for financial institutions, the export plan process, what to include in an export plan, and how to write one. So what is an export plan? An export plan is a working process document that you will need to continue reviewing while you are trying to adapt your business to new conditions, or if you plan to sell your products or services at an international level. Why it is important to have an export plan? It can help you to assess your own readiness to go global. So you can only realize it by starting doing initial research or starting developing an export plan or thinking to have one. Talking about approach to market entry, it can also help you to develop the right market entry strategy to penetrate the market by doing initial research or on your potential markets. And also understanding the environment in those markets and regulatory framework can really help you to pick the best market entry strategy for your business. Of course, an export plan is a very useful tool for a discussion with different organizations and potential partners. A lot of companies ask themselves before going global, I'm too small to export if my revenues are, for example, $30,000 or less. So according to Trade Commissioner Service, the number one myth that companies have or experience is thinking that I am too small to be successful internationally. But it doesn't matter how big you are, or even if you are a startup, to start selling internationally. A good example would be companies who are in the service industry. You can be providing, for example, consulting, let's say engineering consulting or immigration, or you can be a design firm, you can be a tax consultant, an immigration consultant, and you can, for example, launch an app. As long as you have customers overseas and you deliver your services outside of your country, even though you can also work from, or you can be located in Canada, working from your home office, it is still considered an export services. So you should never underestimate your capabilities to go global. Talking about readiness for expansion, the export plan will help you to evaluate your capacity. What are the sources you have, not only human resources, but also physical, financial resources you need to expand. And also the most important thing I would say is the commitment from your team to go global and grow your company. There are certain qualities of companies who are export ready, and these qualities increase their likelihood of being successful in global markets. One of them is the commitment from ownership to be prepared to fund export activities. Sometimes your management may think that while we are comfortable with the way we are doing operations right now, with that we can also expand internationally. But this is not exactly true. You want to make sure that you want to allocate resources, whether it's human resources, whether it's maybe your manufacturing capacity that will support those global activities. Maybe resources to fulfill international orders could be also considered. You want also to make sure that you understand the demands of international business and the demands that it can place on your resources. Again, doing business in Canada and doing business internationally can be quite different and can require also additional finance, additional human capital, additional warehousing, and other things. So also being prepared to modify your products and services is key when you are entering into a new market. It could be that you need, for example, change your labeling or even the way you are attracting your customers. A lot of markets, they operate in different languages. So you may want to have a support team or after-sale support team that can operate in a different language, whether it's Spanish or whether it's one of the languages in the Asian countries. These are all important considerations to assess whether you are ready to export. It is also important to be realistic about your expectations regarding return of investment, because it can take a much longer time for you to open in a new market that you may think. So, I mean, it can be as quickly as launching an app in the market, can take maybe just a few months, or it can take up to a year or 2 years before your product is registered in that market. If you're trying to sell, for example, food products, if you are trying to sell pharmaceutical products or vitamins, it really depends on the type of your business, and it cannot be as quickly as you think from the initial date when you start preparing your export plan to the day when your product is ready to go at the door and ready to be picked up by your international distributors. So it is great to be also aware of different government export support programs that are available out for companies. A lot of companies may not realize that there are government grants out there at the federal level and provincial level also that can help them cover some of the costs associated with the export market development, such as market research, hiring a consultant, a tax consultant, or legal consultant, or register their intellectual property abroad. There are grants out there that can help you cover these resources, and one of them is CanExport Grant. However, I will explain a little bit about the program on the next slides. So when you decide to go global, you should think, or you should target several markets at once to ensure better success. The answer is already on the slide, but the answer is no. So the idea is that when you are just starting your export journey, ideally you want to focus in one market, maximum 2 markets. A lot of companies, and especially Canadian companies, start exporting to the US. I would say that is the #1 export market for Canadian companies, simply because the market is very similar to Canadian market in the way of doing business. It is an English-speaking country. On the regulatory framework in certain countries is quite similar. So it's ready, it's easy to adjust your product to this market. However, a lot of companies don't realize that US market is many markets in one. Like you can consider every state in the US as a separate market. The regulatory framework, the sales tax can be quite different on every state. To decide which states you want to start first, and therefore you want to focus on probably one market at a time. Again, it depends on your sector. It depends also if you are selling services. For example, you might be able to sell to multiple markets at the same time. But if you sell physical goods, or if you sell, for example, complex technology, you definitely want to start with one market. The export plan can help you also to have this clear, concise roadmap of your global expansion and help you to prioritize your markets. So you don't want to target, like I said, too many markets at once, because spreading your financial resources and your human resources around too many markets, you may overlook a target opportunities in certain markets. So you really want to be focused in terms of market selection. Having an export plan can also help you to identify the risks that may exist in certain markets and create mitigation strategies for those risks and put them on your export plan as a reference. And one of the common market risks is the risk of non-payment from the buyer, for example, and you can ensure the risks, for example, through EDC, economic development. EDC is there is an accounts receivable insurance that exists, and banks would really enjoy seeing that you cover all these kind of risks. And maybe, for example, there is a currently fluctuation risk, or money collection can be another type of risk. You want to really analyze those risks and be prepared to solve them. If you happen to come across one market, export plan can really help you to be strategic about allocating your human resources. It can give you also a competitive advantage over other companies who don't have an export plan unwritten, and therefore may not be as strategic as you are. An export plan can help you to create timeline for your market entry strategy and set important milestones. And of course, an export plan can help you to measure your success. As I said, it is a working process document that you would need to review every single time you would like to try to adapt your products or in a different market. The export plan is also an important tool for discussion with different organizations, agencies, bankers, and potential investors when it becomes to ask for additional capital or funding. One of the greatest barriers of companies is need an additional financing, because selling internationally can be lucrative, but it doesn't come without the risk itself. And there are numerous reasons why you may need additional capital, or why your buyer may need additional capital or additional funding. For example, you may need additional capital to invest into additional equipment to expand your manufacturing capabilities, or you may need additional financing to hire more staff who is going to take care of international orders. Your buyer may need also additional financing to cover the cost of the purchase from you until they start selling your product in their market. And therefore, you want to make sure that you have an export plan in place when you go to talk to your banker, or when you go to talk to potential partners or distributors, because just like your company is more likely to choose a business partner who appears to be professional, who appears to know their market, who appears to know their business capabilities. It's the same for potential distributors. They also want to see that you have a plan in written that can clearly demonstrate to them your business capabilities. Having an export plan is very useful too when you work with Canadian Trade Commissioners. Some of you may already be familiar with the Trade Commissioner Service. It's part of the Global Affairs Canada. They have representation in pretty much every embassy in Canada, of Canada around the world. And their main goal is to help Canadian companies to succeed in those markets by providing them like additional market intelligence, sector intelligence, putting them in touch with local contacts there, whether it's a tax consultants or business advisors, putting them in touch with potential distributors too, and other support that can be available for companies. However, to qualify for their service, they want to make sure that you are ready to export before they can help you. So they want to see that you have some sort of export plan in your mind, that you have done your due diligence, you know your markets, that you want to focus. They want to see your unique value proposition. That is very, very important to know that why are your products or services unique to sell in a different market. So it is very important to be prepared, and they would like to know how you can contribute to Canadian economy. So That's a great service to work with, but again, you want to demonstrate that you have an export plan. And finally, having an export plan, it is very important when you apply for different government grants and funds. They also may request for you to submit an export plan before they approve your funding, because there are different types of funding that exist for exporting. There could be funding available for business travels and participation in trade shows, for example. So before applying for this type of funding, you want to identify, first of all, which trade show you would like to attend, how much is going to cost you to register for those trade shows, how much is going to cost you to travel or to send your staff to participate on these trade shows. You want to know how much it's going to cost for hotel, for flights, for food, accommodations, etc. Why having an export plan is specifically important when you talk to financial institutions. Like I said before, there are numerous reasons why you may need additional capital or why your buyer may need additional capital. And there are financial solutions and insurance solutions out there. You want to make sure that you demonstrate to the banker or the financial institution that you understand your market environment, that you understand the competition, that let's say you have a potential partner already, that you understand regulatory framework around your product. You can also demonstrate the cost and benefits analysis of your export expansion. You can demonstrate the correlation of risks versus the benefits. Let's say you are going to sell your products or services into a high-risk market, for example, China. It's a market that has a high risk. However, it can also have great benefits if you are prepared to go there or to go into this market, and if you have done your due diligence on this market. You want also to outline financial requirements for the bank. You want to clearly explain what you will need the money for and how much, like I said, is your goal, is to focus, for example, is to for your manufacturing capacity. Then you want to show that you need to purchase additional equipment or additional manufacturing equipment. You already have quotes for how much it's going to cost you potentially, or that you need to hire, let's say, 2 more people who is going to take care of international orders. And this is like the annual salary that they will have. This is how much additional financing you need to fund these additional resources. And you also want to demonstrate a time frame for your expansion so that the banker can see how quickly you are going to start making sales, how quickly you are going to start making revenues in those markets. Those are really, really important points that you want to demonstrate in your export plan for a financial institution. When I sell indirectly, meaning when you start working on your first export plan, you want to keep it simple. If you sell indirectly through a distributor, for example, you will share a lot of responsibilities with that distributor oftentimes. A detailed plan is usually recommended for companies who are looking to sell directly, meaning that you want to sell to the end consumers in those markets, whether it's through e-commerce, whether it's through opening a store, let's say in the market, and therefore you will need a detailed plan to really plan out your marketing strategy. How are you going to position your product in that market, the pricing strategy, the sales channel. So this is when it will have to be a little bit more detailed than when you sell indirectly. So depending on whether you are a services company, whether you are selling physical goods, can be quite different. As a first step, you want to assess your company readiness, like I mentioned before, and specifically identifying the products or services that you want to export and checking their potential on that specific market. So there are different ways how you can assess your products or service potential in the global markets. For example, if your company is already quite successful in Canada, chances that you are also going to be successful in markets that are similar to Canadian markets, such as United States, UK, or Australia. You also want to assess if your product has a unique feature that are hard to duplicate abroad. You probably will have little competition in the foreign markets, and the demand for it is going to be quite high. However, you should not feel discouraged if your product is not necessarily unique, and if there is a high competition on that market for the same type of product, because you may have any other additional value proposition for your product or service that other companies don't have. For example, you may have more competitive price, or you have a better customer service, or a return policy that your competitors don't have. So you should really try to identify these unique features that would make you stand out from your competition. You want to evaluate if your product will require special after-sale support and who is going to take care of. You want to identify also the markets that can offer the best opportunities for you. You want to assess the competition, the best selling practices, the most common market entry strategies that companies usually use to go in that market, potential distribution channels, regulatory framework, and the time that would usually take to comply with the regulations, whether it's getting a permit, whether it's registering a product. You want to identify and research potential risks in those specific markets. You want also to decide your entry strategy. You want to think about it, whether you want to sell directly, whether you want to sell indirectly, whether you want to set up an office, because based on this decision, it's going to depend on how you are going to plan require research resources, because selling directly or such as selling through e-commerce will require very different resources than selling indirectly, selling, for example, through a distributor. So if you are focusing on the e-commerce efforts, then you would want to think about website promotion or online sales, working on the design of your website, setting up the post system and other things, versus when you sell through a distributor. Maybe you would want to think about the ways to find those distributors attending a specific or different trade shows, participating in conference to find those distributors, registering a booth in different trade shows. So, and as a final step, the most important step, I would say, is that you adjust your export plan and you measure your results as you go through each step of the implementation. So what to include in an export plan? I would like to briefly go through the sample outline of an export plan. I mean, there are a lot of different samples on the internet that you can find. So here, I just wanted to list the most important parts of an export plan, and I think that should be included. I have identified 5 important parts of an export plan, such as the background analysis, the target market analysis, the market entry strategy, financial plan, and implementation schedule. I wanted to focus on the financial section of your export plan because a lot of companies don't spend enough time putting it together, or they may not include it. But it's very important to include it for all the reasons I have already explained. I have it as clear as possible. As I said, keep it simple if you are planning to look for additional financing, but be very specific on the things that you would need to place into the document. As I mentioned, you need to provide enough detail to your financial institution so they can clearly understand your business activities and what the funding you will need to achieve these objectives. Determining how much is going to cost you to produce your product can help you determine the price of the product, and you would need to be quite conservative. You have to be realistic about your markup. You want to demonstrate what you expect when you start selling and what they are going to be. So what the price of the product is going to be and the projected sales, at least for the first year. You also want to include your projected cash flow for at least 12 months. So the format of your expert plan is a key element to ensure it is easy to read, looks professional, attracts positive comments, and engage the reader to become a support for your company. So the expert plan normally has between 25 and 50 pages. It is very important that you include your logo, your company name, the photos of your products or services, and avoid spelling or grammar mistakes because this is your company resume. I would like to share with you an example of a table of contents and what is the information that you can include into the document. So you can find, as I said, different examples on the internet, but here you will see some of the information you can include on your expert plan. So it is like executive summary, the expert strategy, the international finance, value chain management, business processes, e-commerce, if you are going to sell through e-commerce, international law, international tax, and what are going to be like the international sales strategies that you are going to use. So with this information, I hope you now have a better understanding of the importance of an expert plan, and I open the floor to any questions you may have.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Esme. That was a great presentation. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure the participants did as well. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to use the chat box there on the top of your screen. You could click that, submit any questions you have. I'll kickstart things here, Esme. So when creating an export plan, what would you say is like the most underrated component that often gets overlooked?
Well, the things that are underrated, and normally companies look for too much information and they would like to put all the information on the expert plan, but they don't realize that the format is very important, and also try to avoid like technical words that, because you need to, as I said, keep it simple. There are too many readers that know your company, know your products or services, but there are some others that don't know about you. So as I said, the expert plan is going to be like your resume, the resume of your company. So be clear, be concise, try to be as much simple as possible, but with all the steps. And I think that the format of the expert plan is one of the things that probably companies are not taking into account.
Oh, that's really great to know. So keep it simple, avoid lots of like jargon and acronyms that other people might not understand. So you want to make sure it's clear. Looks like we got a couple people typing some questions. So while I wait for those to pop up, I got another one for you, Esme. What would you say are some of the most important things that one should have in order before exporting? I know you touched on a couple things, but maybe if you just want to highlight those.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that due diligence is key when you are trying to export your products or services or are thinking about an export plan before exporting. So due diligence, do your market research. There are different resources that are available. You can contact the World Trade Centre Winnipeg because we are more than happy to support Manitoba companies that would like to expand their businesses within Canada or internationally. So we can provide different kind of services. If you would like to, for example, would like to have market research, is very important to be considered and to be included into your export plan. So you can contact us. We can also make connections, see for if there is any business opportunity inside Canada or outside. And I think that due diligence is key. Contact, networking, and all the things that you can include into your export plan. It would be great to have the opportunity to talk to you. If we don't have all the information, we can connect with the right people.
Perfect. And I think you just kind of touched on Tierno had a question. If I would like to create one, who could help write it? So you're listening to the perfect person, Tierno.
Yeah, for sure. You can contact us, and I think that Paul is going to send you like my contact information. You can go through our website also. We can have a trade consultation. We're going to have discussions with the companies or with the person in charge, and we can start working on that for sure.
That's perfect. I think we got someone else typing, and Theano just said thank you, so I shared your contact info there, Esme. Okay, I think that's it. I don't believe we have any more questions. Oh, she's still typing. We'll give it a little bit here. Esme, something that came to mind when you were talking a little bit about the financial section, a lot of people kind of, gloss over it or they don't dive deep enough into it. Is there a specific reason for this? Is it just too overwhelming and people aren't really seeking help when they need it? Or is there a specific section of that financial plan that people are just kind of, totally overwhelmed with or don't know what they're doing? And yeah, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, for sure. On the financial plan or the financial part of the export plan, we can also refer companies to a specific financial institutions to see what would be like the best, for example, loan or a fund or grant that they would need to apply for. As I said, for example, with Canadian Trade Commissioners, we can also refer the companies to them, and we have a group of experts that are working closely with us. We can refer to them, and they will explain what will be like the best fit for every single company, because as I said, there are different financial needs that they need to cover, but they need to fit into their program. So that's the kind of thing that I could share.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. Well, I believe that's it for questions. So that's all we have for today. If you have any further questions about starting, growing, or expanding your business, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thanks for attending, everyone. We appreciate your participation and look forward to connecting more with you. Have a great day.